Hi, my name is Ken Russo. I'm a senior resources biologist for the California Department of Transportation, North Region in California. And I'm also part of the Sierra 89 stewardship team, which is a multi-agency, multi-group grassroots effort that studied wildlife connectivity and the impacts of our highways on wildlife connectivity along our highways in 89 in Sierra County. And we got really creative in coming up with some solutions and building some undercrossings along that stretch to remedy the effort. And now we're turning our attention to working in a collaborative effort with multi-agency, multi-partner team on Highway 395. So I'm going to talk to you today really quickly about some past and future wildlife crossing efforts that we have along this highway, and briefly discuss some of the future issues as well. Really quickly, Highway 395 starts along the northern border in Oregon, comes down to around the Reno area in Nevada, and briefly enters the western portion of Nevada, re-enters California, and terminates in Southern California. Our study area lies right northwest of the Reno border and in California, in Sierra and Lassen counties. Back when the highway was originally built, it's a two-span divided highway with a pretty significant center median in it. And at three different locations, there's natural ephemeral washes that overcrossings were built at. Caltrans back in the mid-70s quickly realized that there's an issue with heavy carcass collision data. And I'm not going to touch on the species and the movement of those. Mari and Tanya will delve into that a little bit more, but we'll just say that the carcass counts were very high there. So Caltrans in the mid-70s decided we need to remedy this problem by working with these naturally occurring overcrossings and seeing what we can do with it. And there's three crossings: the Scott undercrossing and the Evans undercrossing that are in Lassen County, the Hallelujah Junction undercrossing that is in Sierra County, and then just south of that there's a cattle crossing that's a much smaller feature, but it also works to provide animals a safe movement underneath our highways. So really quickly, I'm going to look at some of these undercrossings. And as I said before, these are naturally occurring ephemeral washes. So it was our overcrossings were already built. It was easy for us to come in and install some fencing to direct these animals through these undercrossings. This is the Scott undercrossing in Lassen County. It's approximately 250 feet long and spans about 60 feet in width. And you can see some of the initial wildlife fencing materials that were installed in the 1970s include some wood posts, some fencings materials that aren't quite up to standards, but they worked at the time. The next one is the Evans Canyon undercrossing, which is at Lassen County, post mile 0.10. Again, it's about 300 feet long, 60 feet across, and has the same type of materials, some old wooden posts and some different types of fencing that we would use now. And finally, the Hallelujah Junction undercrossing, which is in Sierra County. It's about 150 feet again in length, and it is also about 60 feet in width. And you can see there's a lot of naturally occurring cover here for smaller mammals. And CDFW has also had cameras at all of these undercrossings throughout the last 10 years or so, and they've done their own studies. I won't touch on their studies at all, just to say that we get a lot of use through these undercrossings. However, we still get a lot of collisions on top of the highways for numerous reasons. Some of those are the deficiencies and the age of these fencing structures and whatnot, and hence the future work that we need to do. This is a quick shot of that cattle crossing that I mentioned on the southern portion of our project limit. It's a 6 foot by 6 foot segment, about 150 feet in length each, concrete culverts. And you can see there's no ground substrate. They're just pure concrete. We do not get a lot of deer, pronghorn use in these. It's mostly the medium-sized mammals, coyotes, lions, bobcats, things like that use these this span as well. Along with the initial installation of the fencing, these deer escape gates. They're dual purpose to allow deer a safe passage out if they're trapped within the prism of the roadway. And they're also designed to try to keep cattle from entering the roadway prism. As you can see, it's a little barbaric in design, and we're not sure how efficient they've been. I'll touch more on that in a little bit, but those are the deer escape gates. So with the needs and the deficiencies that we found within this project limits, about 2015, 2016, Caltrans started looking into how we're going to address some of these issues. And currently, this is just an example of one of the project layouts. There's a project in initiation right now called the Border Town Project, and we're addressing a lot of the deficiencies that we found in this. And that includes some degradation in the fencing itself. We're going to install some earthen jump outs. We're going to remove the barbaric deer gates, and we're going to install about 3 miles of new fencing. Some of these features are already been in place, and here's an example of one. We've already got 6 earthen jump outs installed on the northern portion of the project, and there's 32 more slated for installation in 2022. This is also an example of the more modernized deer fencing that we use. It has a 4x4 grid on the top 6 feet and a 2x4 grid on the bottom 2 feet that allows for smaller mammals to not or enter through there. We're using steel posts instead of wooden posts on this project. Hopefully last a lot longer than the wooden post grid. And so, like I said, the remainder of this project is slated for 2022, and we're looking forward to working with the 395 team and coming up with some more creative solutions to addressing these connectivity issues. And now on to Mari.
Hi everyone, my name is Mari Galloway. I'm the California Program Manager for Wildlands Network, and we'll provide a quick introduction of Wildlands Network and the work we do, and then discuss why we focused on this section of Highway 395, primary goals of the project, and forming a collaborative with a broad range of stakeholders to really further this effort. So as you can see from the slide, our mission statement's at the top. We are a nonprofit with staff all over the US and in Mexico. We're devoted to enhancing continental scale conservation of core habitat and migration corridors for wildlife. And we work towards our mission through furthering state and federal legislation that aims to establish programs and protect wildlife corridors and enhance connectivity, as well as use our mapping work, which you can see to the right, to pinpoint these areas, find opportunities where crossings are especially advantageous, and use our research to implement on the ground projects. And nearly all of these efforts, I should add, are made possible by working in partnerships and collaboration with government entities, academics, tribes, and other organizations. Wildlands Network became interested in this area because our mapping, when zoomed in on this project area, identified the importance of this region specifically for providing high-value climate connectivity, which is indicated by that magenta color you see on the west side of the Highway 395. And our interest was reinforced when we discovered from our conversations with Caltrans and California Department of Fish and Wildlife that this section was within their purview as the next priority area to address. And as you can see to the left, this area is home to many charismatic and important wildlife. There's an alarming amount of reported collisions with mule deer, mostly due to that east to west movement and that north to south highway impeding those natural migration patterns. Mountain lion and bighorn sheep have been documented to travel along that highway, and the Lassen pack is also nearby and in the area. And unsurprisingly, Highway 395 is heavily trafficked. It's the main conduit between Tahoe to Reno. It's access to Lassen National Park, ski resorts, and other recreational activities. And California Department of Fish and Wildlife also identified this area and their priority barrier to movement, significant stretches of this Highway 395 that we're looking at here. And so really our goals in engaging in this project were to reduce wildlife vehicle collisions, as well as enhance connectivity by protecting migration corridors and providing safe passage for wildlife. And third, depending on interest, is to establish a collaborative to implement additional connectivity efforts along Highway 395 or in other stretches of the highway, or even in, throughout the state or in neighboring states, depending on capacity and interest. So to provide some background on really how we got started, which of course Ken provided really the background with the interagency stewardship team that started in 2002, and Wildlands Network really just recently came on the scene in California last September. And so we were fortunate to connect with California Department of Fish and Wildlife in November of last year to see how we can add value to further crossing efforts in this area, which they indicated it would be helpful if we pulled together a study to determine the location and design for a potential crossing, and coordinate outreach and partner engagement, which consisted of a lot of me sending unanswered emails and individually meeting with various tribes and agencies and NGOs and community groups to get people to the table, which we ultimately did in February of this year and held our first informational meeting, really just to discuss our interest in engaging in this area. And shortly after, we were fortunate to meet Tanya from Pathways for Wildlife, who will be speaking shortly, who we hired to actually coordinate the study. So in April, we got a couple partners together and joined to look at some of the roadways in this region and where we selected this study area. August of this year was our anticipated start date for a year-long study, but I'll hand the mic to Tanya to discuss that effort and process and our restructuring in light of recent fires in the project area.
Thanks so much, Mari and Ken. We are very excited to be part of this amazing project here at Pathways for Wildlife. Such an incredible array of collaborators and partners, ranging from Caltrans to Department of Fish and Wildlife, Nevada Department of Fish and Wildlife, and Nevada DOT. And in looking at this map, this is a map of our study area. The study area includes 2 Department of Fish and Wildlife barrier priorities, and those are the red lines. And these priorities are for species such as mule deer and mountain lion because they're often hit along US 395. So what our study area will consist of is a total of 33 different sites. And this will range from spanning from Reno to Honey Lake, which is just south of Susanville. And we'll be monitoring 20 different culverts, 6 different bridges, 2 different underpasses, and 5 jump outs. And we were currently supposed to have deployed cameras this past summer, but due to the terrible fires, we're now aiming for this October. And in April 2021, we had a terrific site visit with Wildlands Network, Pathways, Caltrans, and Nevada Department of Fish and Wildlife. And we got out and we learned so much of the amazing work that has been our foundation in creating baseline data, and also what really triggered this project. Cody Schroeder, a wildlife biologist at the Nevada Department of Wildlife, and Sarah Holm, a wildlife biologist at the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, they radio collared 36 different mule deer to determine their migration paths. So it was fascinating to see that data. So this map is showing the different corridors from low use to medium use to high use corridors. And in this region along 395, deer migrate across the highway, which is resulting in many wildlife collisions. The deer migrate from their summer range north of Lake Tahoe across 395 into their Nevada winter range. So as Ken had mentioned, there's already been some terrific work done, from the creation of jump outs, directional fencing, and this has been an amazing pilot project that's been very effective. So we're hoping to build on this work with the partners and collect more data to expand along all 395 up north towards Honey Lake. And the site visit was terrific. The Long Valley River crosses 395 in several sections. There's many terrific different culverts, and we are finding all sorts of multiple species tracks during the site visits. So we are very excited to get the camera data out there, and hopefully we'll be showcasing our results at the next ICOET. And Caltrans is fantastic too, in that they've also been collecting roadkill data. So we'll be mapping this out. And just from here, you can see there's been several deer and a mountain lion that have been hit in just a several month period. And a lot of the work we've done before has been connecting one mountain range to the other mountain range, Santa Cruz Mountains to Dazzler Range. But this was quite fascinating because we're literally connecting several different mountain ranges to the west, to several different mountain ranges over into Nevada to the east. So it's a really exciting project. Oh, and to back up, those different colored dots, the circles, are the various culverts we'll be monitoring. And then we have several underpasses and bridges, which are the squares. Just a quick picture. We were blown away by the landscape of what it looks like out there. Just incredible habitat and communities. And our hopes is that the data results will also help contribute to the identification of where a wildlife overpass could be done. And the folks in Nevada are already doing incredible work. So we're really excited to take this type of work and apply this to 395 where it's much needed. And then Ken Russo and Susie and his team, they've already been doing phenomenal work. We started the field site visit going to I-80 and they installed this culvert for wildlife crossings and recorded terrific use, bear, deer, coyote. So this incredible partnerships, and we're so honored to be included into this amazing work that all these folks are already doing. I mentioned the fires, so now we will also be folding in post-fire monitoring. The fire has, the Dixie fire has burned up to 395 at Honey Lake in 2 different sections along 395, and also further south by Reno. So there's the potential for identifying important habitat connectivity that could be prioritized for restoration. And there's a look at the 395 with the fire. Down further south, the Beckworth complex burned up to 395 just north of the SR 70 junction. So we're hoping to also capture the effects of fire of landscape connectivity in relation to highway permeability. And moving forward, this is the first step that we hope will be the Sierra Nevada mountains, the spine of California, and a large-scale study where we have the opportunity for preserving and enhancing genetic flow on a regional scale for species such as mountain lions, badgers, and other wildlife suffering from habitat fragmentation and genetic isolation all throughout the state. So in this spine, we're looking at a Lake Tahoe to Yosemite regional linkage. These are 9 different highways that bisect this linkage from 395 to 20 to 80, 50. We have 88, Highway 90, 89, 4, 108, and 120. And 6 different wildlife priorities are along these different sections of the highways. So we're really excited to be looking at really big regional scale connectivity throughout the Sierra Nevadas. So please stay tuned for more on that as we continue our work. Thank you so much.